All right, Matt, how are you doing today?
Greg, I am fantastic. And I say this with extra enthusiasm because I'm talking to somebody with a drum set behind them. Few things make
Yeah,
me happier.
yeah, I love it. And I also see that you look like a musician in the background as well. You've got your guitar cases,
We're
right?
hiding the guitar cases back there. There's some amps over here. There's a million music books on these shelves and a
I
case of records or two. I mean, we're
I
stocked
love
up.
I love it, man. I love collecting those big records too. I got all the original Beatles albums up there. They're out of view of the camera, but yeah, this is I'm super excited. So let's I want to quickly talk about your practice and what you do. But before we started recording, you made an interesting you said something that was interesting that I wanted to visit really quick. You got you didn't necessarily go to school. You went to school first with a music degree, right?
My friend, I never even took a business class in college. Hopefully, nobody holds that against me. What I instead did is I was one of these like over ambitious kids. So I was really into music growing up. I was playing in bands. I was playing in bands with my friends and with a bunch of older people, with adults too. And I was learning basically how to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
So that got me all the way through high school and college. I worked one crappy summer in construction and then found out
Oh,
how much you could get paid to play weddings for people. It was like this is so much better. And
yeah.
then I also found out like this is why you put the band van inside the LLC and how you get the insurance and how you deal with payroll and DOL. And I learned all those lessons. I didn't know I was learning business. So I learned all that
Mm-hmm.
outside of school. So flash forward to like early 2000s, I got a degree in music. I'm running a recording studio. I'm touring. I'm doing all this stuff. And I didn't I didn't know macro or market stuff at all yet. I'm like, why does this suck for me? And it doesn't seem to suck for people who did this before me. And Napster, the internet,
Yeah,
the
the
advent of the
collapse of the
personal
music
computer,
industry. Yeah.
basically the entire collapse of the music industry as we knew it and dreamed about it growing up was getting
Yeah.
rug pulled out from under me. I was like, this is now a job and not something I love. I need insurance. I stumble into a job as a part-time teller in a bank. That lasts all of 2 weeks. And I'm like, that guy looks like he's having fun. What's he do? He's a financial advisor. Lo and behold, the story begins. That's like 2007 or 8. And here we are today in 2026.
All right. I love how that kind of evolved into what you're doing. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your practice and kind of what you specialize in.
So the practice today, and this I think is really important and really, I don't know, it's exciting in a career arc nerd type of way, is what I told you before about I was learning business on how to run and operate and do this. That's the way that the business runs today. These are the people that we serve. So Sunpoint Investments is the RIA that I am a part of. I like to say we're the big side of small and the small side of big. I did a good decade and a half at a giant firm. So I was in the wirehouse. I was working in the giant system with all the politics and all the things that come with it. But I got that experience of what happens when you're financial Walmart and you can literally do anything for everyone. The big lesson I learned is that if you're really going to do what's in people's best interest, you can't always have the thing that's in their best interest. Like other people are allowed to have the best thing that exists.
Yeah.
And that slowly drove me nuts until the point where I was like, you know what? I want to leave. I want to go to a place that can still do, again, small side of big, big side of small. I want to do everything, but I want to have the option to tell clients if this is not in your best interest, let me help you still get this done.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do today at Sunpoint is we take case, our core clients are people who are like entrepreneurs or creators of jobs in some way, shape, or form. And we help them not only with their situation on the financial planning, the asset management, and all of those things, but we help them with the entire ecosystem that inevitably springs up around them. Because success never gets trapped if it does get trapped into a weird little corner, it's just one person by themselves. I'm not really interested in that person.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the person who it's like, well, how do we take care of the employees? How do we take your mother needs some help? Your mother in law needs some help. Your cousin needs some help. All the different stacks of the employees, the executives, and the entrepreneurs who make this stuff work. That ecosystem is our focus. and how to navigate all this stuff, because I'm an outsider to this industry. I still feel like one. I
Yeah.
didn't know what these words meant. So I like taking my message to that ecosystem and helping translate all this stuff to actually get good outcomes about something that isn't that hard. If you don't want to work in construction one summer, there's a whole other path out there. Let's figure
Yeah.
it out together.
Yeah. I worked in construction before we started our business around 10, 12 years ago. So I was making $15 an hour. It's not
I
fun.
wish I was making $15 an hour.
Yeah, this is
And
not fun.
I wish there wasn't, halfway through the job when they go, stop working in here. And as you're walking out and you're describing it to your friend's dad, afterwards, you're 16 years old and your friend's dad's like, that sounds like that's asbestos. And they're like, well, nobody's going to talk about that again.
Sorry, I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's kind of like, I've experienced that before. And then, everybody, freaks out and flees the building. Definitely some interesting experiences from my time.
But these are these like language and label and story barriers that exist inside of every single industry. And us with the shared musical background, like music is just a way of expressing something. Everything is poetry. Everything is a metaphor. So if you can start to see those component parts, the world's a lot more fun and a lot less intimidating.
Yeah, absolutely. So you specialize in, I'm looking at this Sunpoint site. You are the managing director and the private wealth advisor. So it looks to me like you're really in the financial planning piece, and an advisory role. Maybe you could help me understand if there's anything in your music background, and the creative side that you find has been very helpful to you in what you're doing, working with your clients with their money. Does that make sense?
It does. So I think one of the most important things for any of us who have a music or an arts background is what we are invariably good at is pattern matching. Stringing some stuff together, seeing how stuff goes together or clashes, and understanding when something is in a groove, when if it's in a rhythm, when it feels right, not just picking on you for the drummer stuff, but also like how you can manipulate those things to make it feel different or to maybe take it to somewhere else. Like one song plays great at one type of party and plays totally different at a different type of party. Sure. These things can be crossed and bent and used to basically interact with the world. So when I look at that and I think about how does this apply, I'm going to take this in a slight different direction than I think where you meant it, which is this is another huge, huge revelation for me. I think a lot in terms music industry disruption changed my career arc. The one that exists right now, I like to think of in terms of the fascination with startups and in this loneliness epidemic that we're all in the middle of, the forgotten sense of what is a scene. So can I ask you, were you ever a part, like I was in some music scenes, I played, local sports and stuff like that growing up. Have you experienced a scene in your lifetime?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I was really into pop punk. So the pop punk scene was what I was into.
Where in the country did you grow up?
Central
Florida. I promise not to derail this. You were in Central Florida?
Yeah.
Okay. And when can I age date you? Like, are you in the glory days of like the Gainesville scene? Or are you in the glory days of like what part of pop punk Florida did you experience?
Yeah. So I was actually in a place where there wasn't a lot of local music. So by scene, I mean like all the people that I hung out with listened to that type of music. We talked about it all the time, that kind of thing. So I actually didn't get to go to a lot of shows when I was that age because there just weren't any really around. But where were you going with that? Because I'm really intrigued.
So something that I love, especially with the music world and especially with this, and it's funny. So I'm gonna make this Florida specific for a minute, just because I can. And it's a fun excuse to talk about cool things in Florida, even though way up north in Pennsylvania here, it was a distant country as far as I was concerned. Okay, so we are startup obsessed in this country and have been for the better part of the last probably 2 decades, I would say. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in private markets and public markets and companies staying private longer post the tech boom and blah, 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 blah. The big thing here is that we've become obsessed with these companies who scale. And the idea of how you take a company or take something that's scale is you keep making it more and more popular for more and more people. And that requires that that company has two forms of leverage, as operational leverage and organizational leverage. Operational, new tools, things that help build it up in infrastructure, and then organizational, which are people. So the right people in the organization to help it spread and go further. And that's magic. It's magic when it happens. It's magic when you start Instagram or whatever, and 10 of you get $1 billion valuation and you sell the company to Facebook, and the rest is history. Startups are really, really cool, but they are not everything. A startup is very, very different from a scene. A scene is the antithesis to scale. It's you and your friends hanging out and vibing over pop punk bands that you love and caring about, even if you can't go to the show.
Yeah.
But it's the coolest thing ever. And if all of a sudden 3 kids from out of town come in and they want to talk about it, it's not the same.
Right.
So your scene can't get levered up to be a startup, even though people want to make it that way. I think, like, when I think about Florida, I think about some of like the bands that came out of my generation of like the late 90s, the mid to late 90s in particular. And I think about Less Than Jake. I think about Hot Water Music. I think about Against All Authority. I think about some of like the grindcore and metalcore bands that I love from down there. Like Gainesville had so much cool stuff going on. Great mail order. Some of the best, like the Blind Spot mail order catalog. Oh, I have such great memories of getting those and getting the zines from down your way.
Yeah.
So it was a scene though. And this is part of, again, my generation, this idea about like selling out. We worry about when somebody takes startup culture and maps it onto scenes. Now, here's where I'm going to wrap this all back in. Inside of a wealth management firm, what a lot of these companies want to be, what the major wirehouses, what the major banks, what the major brokers all want to represent, is they all want to take startup values and apply it to wealth management services. And the problem is that default desensitizes what the relationship is, because you want basically the client to have a relationship with the brand, not with the advisor. You are trying to eradicate the scene from the structure in the name of scale. What we're trying to do at Sunpoint is basically say the company itself can have certain principles of scale, but inside of the advisor relationship, so me as a managing director, as a private wealth advisor, working with my own clients and helping strategy for the other clients at the firm, my focus is every advisor should represent a scene with their clientele. And that scene is the advisor, a service associate, a planning person, probably a finance person, like an investment portfolio person. That scene gets delivered with the client, inclusive in that conversation. And we draw the lines around this. This relationship never needs to scale. It is a two-way street. It is one-to-one. And you feel good about this because we're not going to blow it up into pick your major bank of choice.
Sure. So you keep it
That's
really
the
personal.
most important thing. Personal and small on that level. That's the kind of, I come from scenes like that. That's when my professional life feels good. I tried it the other way. I didn't know why I didn't fit in for so long. And it was, I'm in the wrong environment.
Yeah. So it sounds like that approach is better for you because you get to know the person more intimately. You get to be more creative. It's not a cookie cutter. It's not a process that you're just trying to fit in because the organization says you have to. Would you say that that's accurate?
That's more than accurate, because not only is it not cookie cutter, it's another expression that I love to use. Everybody used to talk about white glove service when I was starting in this business. I hate that expression. It's like, am I your butler? Am I bringing you orange juice on a tray? Like, what's the metaphor you're trying to get to me here? Like, what a butler is, what white glove service is that is a form of organizational leverage where it's like, oh no, you're a lower cost person, so you can go out and do this service for me and contribute to the profit margin of scaling up the larger organization. What we instead say all the time is we say we do garden glove service. We will get our hands dirty in the name of growth, not hiding your bodies. I will get my hands dirty in the name of growth with you, but we have to be growing something together. And critically, with that relationship, the relationship isn't just me and you, but it's who you're bringing to the table and whom I'm bringing to the table. And that means we have two ecosystems that are now growing something together. And those relationships are only valuable over a lifetime, if not 2 or 3. That is a different duration of thinking that I'm very, very passionate about.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about your clients and the people that you work with. Um, is there any specific types of people that you work with? There's like their specific niche. Maybe you could talk about the typical person who might come to you and a normal situation they might need you to lead them through that kind of maybe has sparked their interest in getting in touch with you in the first place.
So I'm going to explain this in terms of like the ecosystem that unfolds, and maybe I'll give you like a couple of more tangible cases and how this fits together. I think this is really important to say and repeat, which is it's our main clients that we're always looking for are basically the entrepreneurs. They're people who can both work in and on a business at the same time. Just below them, not in status or stature, we work with them too, but we want to be aware of how they fit into this, are the executives. Those are the people who have been trained to work on a business. They think like owners, even if they're not necessarily the owner at the entrepreneur class, but they think and they operate that way. The last one is employees. Employees work in a business. That could be a choice. That could be, I need to be at home every day to take care of my family or do something else, or life is okay enough here. I'm going to make everything else work out there. There's nothing derogatory in this status. This isn't like a pyramid or something.
Sure.
They all nest together. There are no entrepreneurs who also don't have executives or employees in some way in their life. And there's no employee who doesn't also have an executive or an entrepreneur in their life. I will find them. I will challenge anyone to say, like, just give me this and I'll tell you who the pieces are in the ecosystem. Again, pattern matcher, systems thinker, a lot of ADHD. That's how I roll. So
yeah, ditto.
We look for the entrepreneurs though, and those are the ones that we're always trying to find because we know we can help them the most. Now, the reason we can help them the most is typically they own or operate some type of business. It could be something really traditional and really, I don't want to say boring, but we have people who, you run a healthcare company, you're publicly traded, you got all those problems that go with you. We have people who run private real estate businesses, private marketing firms, all sorts of things like that, where the range of problems is the range of problems as it is. What they all have in common, though, is those people say, I've got this whole team and ecosystem of people around me, and I want to do what's right for me, but I also want to do what's right for them. And so for those people, it's putting together the financial plan, putting together the investment strategy that understands their business is part of their investments. It's not just their stocks and bonds and whatever in their IRA or whatever. It's like, no, your business is an asset. We have to value that. Your three pieces of real estate, those are assets. We have to evaluate that and evaluate that and how it fits into the broader puzzle. And then on top of that, we need to do this look through where if you're the owner operator, what are the benefits plans what's the long-term incentive plans you're offering for your executives? Are they your succession plan? Are they going to come in, or are you going to sell the company somewhere else? If you're going to sell the company somewhere else, how are you going to take care of your executives and your employees? Because you're worried about that person who works at the front desk for the last 20 years.
Right.
You care about this whole ecosystem, and we help those people think in that connected community sense of what they really want to achieve beyond the money.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that those people find you? Like, where do you typically find your clients? How do you find them?
Word of mouth is still the strongest way that people find you. The classic, I know a guy. It's never going away. I don't care what you tell me AI is going to do. I know a guy is going to go forever and ever and ever and ever. However, caveats. How do people find us today has evolved. And this is part of the bet. This is how you and I ran into each other out in podcast land.
Yep.
It has evolved. I think about this in 3 layers as well. A lot of systems for helping me think through stuff, because if you're going to replicate this is my form of finding operational leverage in some of these areas. So I think as far as marketing goes, in terms of there's the social media, and around it, there's a social medium and there's parasocial relationships. These are critical. So social medium is me and you talking to each other. It's a 2-way street. I know we're going to share this, but you and I are basically just talking to each other right now. The social medium is where client relationships live. This is a scene. It doesn't ever need to go farther than this. This is perfect. This is beautiful. Greg, you're fantastic.
Thank you.
Social media is you and me when we both get on LinkedIn or whatever later. And what social media is it's still this. It's still a two-way street, but now everybody else can see it. That idea that we can engage directly with people across social media is just a broader network application of the social medium. That's why there's a singular and a plural, but I had 2 generations of English teachers before me. It's an unhealthy fascination with words.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the next part, and this goes back to your initial question that I'm taking forever to answer, is the parasocial relationship. And this is one thing I think a lot of advisors miss, and this is a big place that I think business comes in now. The parasocial relationship is you and I record this podcast. Somebody goes out and they find the 3 other podcasts that I do, and they start listening to me and they start to go, oh, I feel like I know Matt. I feel like I like the way Matt communicates. I feel like I have a relation. This is a one-way street. The parasocial relationship, I don't know you yet. You're an internet stranger. But what that does is that increases the surface area. And once somebody has listened to a few things that I've done online, they say, I like the way he communicates. We've developed a parasocial relationship. Now, usually what happens next, you connect with me on one of the social media platforms. Now the two-way street is open. Eventually, sales funnel style, that's what this is. It turns into a social medium where we have a direct one-to-one connection, and now it evolves. So in this internet era, I think the most important thing, and something that's big for us at Sunpoint, is developing these parasocial relationships on a number of platforms where people, even if somebody says, I know a guy, you're going to Google him. You're going to put it in ChatGPT or Perplexity. You're going to look him up. I want to give you 10 different ways to feel like you have an idea of what it's like to talk to me before we get there. Because I know that's how I'm vetting people these days too.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I think that's what we're all doing. We have the benefit of being able to do that now. So you said you've got a couple podcasts. What? Tell us a little bit more about your podcast, and is it ideally for your prospective clients to kind of find you and get to know you? What are the topics you talk about? Tell us a little bit more about your podcast.
What fun would it be to talk about the same thing all day, every day? Come on. So here's another thing. I do not have a dedicated like financial planning podcast. I reserve that for the people who want to do this. I will let stuff seep out into the world about things we're talking about. Sunpoint does webinars and we do other things where we broadcast this information. But chances are, even if you're looking for a financial planner, you want to know more about the communication style and the values and everything else that shows up. By far the most popular thing that I do online is I am a part owner and operator of a company called Excess Returns. We're a financial and investment market education channel. So YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your stuff, we're there. And what Excess Returns does is a lot of the investment related conversations that I would otherwise have behind the scenes, we just have them in public. A lot of that work flows directly through to client conversations. It's like, we're going to talk to, the head economist at Redfin. We're going to talk to Daryl Fairweather. We're going to get her take on real estate. And guess what? We have a bunch of real estate clients. Last checked, most of our clients own houses, if not a house, and whatever else. It's very relevant information. It's very education focused. And you get a sense for the type of questions when I'm hosting. I have 2 partners who host stuff too. What it's like to see the types of questions we ask in people before we make investments or think about the world and markets. You learn alongside us.
Right.
That's the most interesting thing I do. So that's the most popular thing we do. Excess returns, investment education. Beyond that, I do a long form interview, which is basically life story, because I meet all these fascinating people in business and finance and a lot of the types of people that would be our clients. And they have the most amazing life stories, incredible experiences, things they've seen, things they've done, accomplishments they've had. It's never in a straight line. I love humanizing these people. That's called the intentional investor. And it's just about people's, I want to do it's a loving profile of people I respect. And the last thing I do, which is my favorite, I might have to hit you up for this one, so I hope you know it's coming. I also have another show where I introduce strangers to each other.
Oh,
which is another thing. So I don't tell you who you're going to meet. You have a blind calendar invite. You show up. I take great care in pairing people together. And then I bring them together for the show. That to me is a networking exercise. This is the way, again, I would do all of these things anyway if you didn't record them. But what the podcast allow me to do is foster those parasocial relationships with people who want to come find them, and then go, and I get messages like, you're always introducing these incredible people to each other. And I just love, like, I get to follow along and now meet them and follow them on LinkedIn or whatever afterwards. Or I've been reading that guy's research reports for 10 years and I had no idea about that crazy story from college that changed the arc of his career. That to me
cool.
is what I'm showcasing, what it's like to be in a conversation with me.
Wow, that's really interesting. So you have several podcasts, and one of them is where you just introduce two random people together that you think would be an interesting conversation, and you just record.
Yeah, because Dude, it's that dope joke right now.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Everybody feels like everybody has a podcast, and I'm going, there are still so many people that I would love to see in conversation together that it's never going to happen. So I decided to just invent a show where I can have a Barstool style conversation, largely influenced. We're students of these things. Like the Dick Cavett show is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah,
and like when he would get to the seat without the desk and have the people gathered up, I'm like, that's the best thing ever. Why not have a podcast that does that? So,
all right. So speaking of your podcast, let's say you have somebody who's listening to the podcast, they've been following you, and they're like, I'm interested in possibly working with this guy as a financial planner for me. Maybe you could walk us through like your process. So if somebody were to become a client of yours today, what happens the first couple of weeks? What do you do? What do you take them through? And then what does it kind of look like to work with you over the course of a calendar year? Can you explain kind of what that process looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, when they come to me and they've at least even partially vetted a small corner of the many crazy things that I have going on in my regular life, that small corner, they come in with a sense of how much I care about community and making these connections, and very frequently making connections for them too. I know lots of people and I would know them without the podcast stuff, but because I know them too, that means my network is my client's network.
Yeah.
And that's an important part of me bringing my ecosystem to theirs. So if you were coming in the door on day one, there's basically like 5 parts that we say, this constitutes, we have a financial plan. This takes 6 months to a year to put together. This becomes the core of our entire relationship. And this is what we start working on right away. And those parts, I say, I can't really give you any advice until we know these 5 areas and we have them nailed down, because these represent context. They don't represent the answer. It just means to give you an honest answer about, should you take the company and turn it into an ESOP? Should you set up that solo 401k or just keep doing the SEP? Or do you qualify for this tax act versus that, or in your trust, or full stop? Can't know them till I have this context. So at Sunpoint, we basically say the first section is the team. We call this our family playbook. I need to know everybody that you care about, that you're financially and emotionally responsible for, and we need them written down because this whole process is for them. So the first thing is the team. Second part is the calendar. Most people don't have a written down calendar of the things that they know are going to happen in their lives. You intuitively know them. You go, oh yeah, my mortgage is going to be paid off in 25 years. But did you write it down? Did you say it's going to happen in, 2042 or whatever it is? Most people haven't done that. Right. And so now we have the team. Now we have the calendar of all the things we know are going to happen in life. Forget the things we don't know are going to happen. Those will come up later. Those will be the questions. Next part is cash flows. And so that's just the money coming in and money coming out. And guess what? Cash flows change over time. You sold the business, you retired, the company that you bought stock in, they got sold and you got a bunch of cash. These things change over time. So the cash flows now map across the calendar. And that's where we get tax returns. We get all that boring stuff, but it's part of it.
Boring, but essential. Got to do it.
Boring, but essential. Part 4 is the balance sheet. Literally, what do you own versus what do you owe? That's all a balance sheet is. Again, I love translating this for people who don't think this way and saying, look, this ain't rocket surgery. Sure. Basic stuff. Sure. So what you own versus what you owe. And again, we take great pride, especially with our entrepreneurs or people who think in the way of like your business is an asset. You have things that your average wealth advisor or your average firm that can't charge you an AUM fee on it might not look at this like an asset, but I'm telling you it is, and we have to treat it that way. And the fifth area, which is just a list of questions, and this is why this is at the end, the last check-in on questions, which is a lot of like the legal and the insurance agent stuff, none of which we do. Your ecosystem, your network, we're going to find you the right people or vet them and make sure. But
Yep.
what happens if anybody on that first slide on that team for your playbook, what happens if somebody lives longer than expected? What happens if they die sooner than expected? What happens if they get sick? What happens if they get sued?
Mm.
If I know the team, the calendar, the cash flows, the balance sheet, and the answers to those questions, I have the context to help you through anything in your life. And at Sunpoint, we use that to steer the investment policy statement that applies to the balance sheet and takes into consideration all those assets. We use it to steer the financial planning process, which again takes about a year to get into place and to get to buttoned up till we have all the right data on the table. And then the inevitabilities of the calendar of life naturally unfolding as different phases, different seasons go. This becomes the living document that's the core of the long-term relationship of the trust that we want to build in that little micro scene between you and your advisor.
Interesting. So once you have that initial stuff built out, like what is it? How do you communicate? Like, let's say you're working, it's you're in your second year of working. A lot of that bulk work and kind of has through onboarding has been done. What does it look like to work with and communicate with your clients over the course of like a year? Like, do you get like, do you just call them as stuff comes up? Do you have meetings that are scheduled every quarter? How do you keep in touch with them and make sure that they know what's going on, you know what's going on, and that you're executing things together?
Sure. This goes back to this social medium concept of it being a two-way street. So we have, like, at a minimum, in the sleepiest, most standard, you're a mid-40 something like executive, and you've got all the other things that you worry about, and you're paying us to not worry about stuff. At a minimum, once a year, I'm dragging you into at least one of these virtual meetings.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, we're talking.
Yeah, I told the SEC we were going to talk. We're going to talk.
Yeah, we're
at least once a year. But now here's the thing. Different parts of life determine different frequencies of communication. Since we have been on this session recording this, I've gotten like 2 messages just popping up in front of me that are like, I'm ready to talk about this, or can we talk about this before the end of the week? That two-way street and the closeness of the relationship means me, my assistant, my director of planning, who's many times involved directly with relationships on the planning side. We are all an interface for those client questions to come up, whether that's moving money, or we just got through tax season, or one of the other messages that I literally just got is about retirement plan deferrals and what if we're going to stick with the current TPA, third party administrator, for the plan or not, because that business got sold. So now we're revetting the vendors that are plugged in the system. Post taxes, it's time for us to talk about this before we send another, couple of checks to deposit into these accounts for the year. So year 2, what that looks like is it depends on what's going on in your life. We're at a minimum meeting once or twice a year for that deeper dive conversation. But then on demand, sometimes we're going to talk every day for 3 weeks in a row.
If a situation is happening where it makes sense and you need to do that.
If the situation is there, that is part of the relationship that we want to have with you. And it's very important to us that we understand there are times when we're going to dial way up. That's also where the scene doesn't scale. If I have 200 clients, I can't do that. You are paying me, Mr. and Mrs. Client, in part, you're paying our firm and the advisor that you have with us to not be over capacity.
Right. Because if you're over capacity, the quality of the service starts to suffer.
Now we tried to scale on that type of leverage, and now it's going to take away from the quality of the relationship. And that's to me, that's what's not acceptable. And that has to be the internal standard of this is a non-negotiable for us. I want real relationships with these people. Lifetime value is where that value accrues. And if we can stretch this out, take great pride, the whole firm, in how many multi-generational relationships we have, because we look at the ecosystem, not the individual.
I love it. Wow, that's awesome. I love you got these, I love your scene analogies, and you explain things differently, like I haven't heard before. So it shows to make sense that, you have your podcast and you're a creative guy. So I really enjoyed the chat, Matt. But for somebody listening who's curious to learn more about you and possibly work with you, how should they get in touch with you? What should they do next? Where should they go?
So the easiest place to bug us on the internet, as I love to say, because that's just the way we find everybody these days. And the calling card here is honestly, if you feel like finance is a foreign language, or if you feel like aspects of finance are a foreign language, pride myself on being a translator, on being a reducer of these ideas. This is the goal, to be able to communicate with people on their level to make the actual decisions that all of us have to lead to make to lead the lives that we want to lead. It's so important. So if you want to find me, my name, Matt Zeigler, that's I before E, except after Z, on LinkedIn, as my grandmother and then mother taught me to say, both English teachers, mind you. So Matt Zeigler on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find there. Sunpoint Investments is the website, sunpointinvestments.com. Because we're fancy, Sunpoint has an E on the end of Sunpoint, and investments is plural, because who makes just one investment? That would be boring. So E on the end of Sunpoint, S on the end of investments.com is the website. Contact forms are all there. You can see the rest of the people at the company, the rest of the advisors. And again, it's an ecosystem. So we operate that way. Get in touch with any of us. We all know how to get in touch with each other.
Appreciate it, Matt. Thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your story, and sharing more about your philosophy.
Absolute ball, Greg. Thanks for asking the questions.